You're watching KMNH, Kids Making the News Happen.
Hi, I'm Omer and welcome to KMNH News. Today is Tuesday, May 26th.
So, it's gonna be raining. It's gonna be raining again. I'm just like a broken record now. I'm not even a weather reporter. It's just over and over. It's raining. Ugh. I'm getting tired of it. I'm really getting tired of it. It just My mom has always told me that when things made me angry, that I should take a break, walk away from it, and calm down. So I quit. Larkin is weather woman no more. Come get me when it's not raining. We know money can't buy love or friendship, but it would mean the world to us if you became Happen's BFF. BFF of course stands for best friend forever, but here at Happen it also means a little something else. Business, family, and friend. All you need to do to become a BFF supporter is make a small donation. Just go to happening.org and click on the donate link. We thank all past, present, and future BFF donators.
If you watch the news, you've heard about businesses closing every day as a result of the crisis. But we're celebrating a business that actually opened up in Northside during the pandemic with a soft opening and with a grand opening that will be set for a later date. This company is called Morsel Nosh. The owners are Michael Hirkins and his husband, Mark Jubelbis. If you haven't seen it, the store is located at 4183 Hamilton Avenue. We had a chance to interview Michael and Mark this last week and learn more about their business and passion for the Northside neighborhood. Thank you guys for being on the show. So tell me about Morsel Nosh and what you bring to customers.
Morsel Nosh, we focus on small bites and entertaining with small bites. We have a love of cheese and a passion for food. The Cincinnati food scene is pretty vibrant, and there are a lot of small business entrepreneurs doing a lot of amazing things in Cincinnati, and we hope to bring this food to the neighborhood.
What made you both decide to open up a store?
I became aware of Northside. I lived in northern Kentucky, and I was attending the Dharma Center down on Moline, and I had seen a sign for a house for sale on Moline, and I looked at it, did one walkthrough, and I said, wow, I want this house. This house is cute, I like this. I moved in, we started dating a little less than a year later, and we saw change happening in the neighborhood. We saw a lot of people starting to invest in the neighborhood, a lot of potential. We saw food places start to come up, we saw people renovating houses. So I said, hey, let's take a look at doing our businesses here. Our first business venture that we were considering was also food-based, and we approached the Hamilton County Land Bank, which the county gathers properties that have been abandoned or foreclosed on, things like that. and makes them available to developers who want to do something. So we wanted to make a small nano farm that would grow food in a neighborhood, and then that food would pretty much serve the community around that neighborhood. And we put a project proposal in on a couple of different properties, and the projects went to somebody else. So I said, well, let's revisit the cheese shop idea. And so then as we did our research and met with people in the community and started asking, like, hey, what would you guys be interested in here? And just kept coming back with like deli, grocery, deli. And then Apple Street Market project kicked off, and I was sort of shying away from the deli because I didn't want to necessarily compete with, and I wouldn't necessarily have the same purchasing power that Apple Street Market had. And then that project had its own trials and tribulations, so we refocused our efforts back towards the grocery.
And my education was in hospitality management, so it just sort of happened naturally. Like this, my background, education in hospitality, and then our desire to, bring this, food to the neighborhood is really what inspired the shop, above all our other projects.
What measures have you put in place for safety during the crisis?
Well, first we had to educate ourselves on the guidelines that are ever evolving almost on a daily basis, and stay on top of the information from the CDC and from the government. Then we had to learn that we had to sanitize surfaces that people were touching. We sanitized our shopping baskets after every customer. Our staff are wearing masks. We have hand sanitizer for our customers on the counter. We are trying to limit the store to 2 customers at a time. We're asking people to not pick up or handle merchandise unless they're certain that they want to purchase it. If they have any questions at all about anything that we're carrying, they're more than welcome to ask, and we can show them more about the product.
And we're also happy to shop for the customer if they're not comfortable touching things themselves. We have gloves, especially for some of the produce like the mushrooms and beans and things that, it's a lot of surface area.
What are your favorite products in your store, and what are some favorites of the customers?
Pizza Kids, we have Tasted Belgian waffles. We partner with local cheese producers. We know all of the Cincinnati cheese producers on a first-name basis.
We've just picked up bagels from 513 Bagels. We have sourdough loaves from Chef Scott at the Redmore over in Mount Lookout. Our maple syrup from Dirk's out in Bethel, Ohio.
We have Chocolates Latour and Maverick Chocolates. They're 2 Cincinnati entrepreneurs who are rocking the world of chocolates here in Cincinnati. We love food, and we love sharing food with friends, family, and community.
What plans do you have for the store in the future?
Northside has a very diverse population, and so we know that from an economic standpoint, there are people living on with limited income or fixed income, and then there are people who have disposable income. And there's also, from a food standpoint, there's a diversity in needs and requirements of the community. Like, so there are people who are vegan, vegetarian, people who have food sensitivities and food allergies, and then there are people who are omnivores, they'll eat anything, everything. And so we offer products across the spectrum. We're not going to necessarily please everybody, but we know that we will have something for everybody in our store. Well, we still have some renovations left to do in the kitchen before we can actually do food service. But when we're done and we've passed all of our inspections, we will be a full-service deli and grocery. So we will have sandwiches, salads, soups. We'll have food already prepared, ready to go, grab and go. But we will also have made to order. Everything you can order here and pick up at the pickup counter in the back.
And soup of the day, we'll have like a whole cake, sheet cake on top of our daily case if you just want a slice of cake or two to go, or pie. And we're really trying to focus a lot on local Like the 513 Bagels, perfect example. She doesn't have her own space. She's down at the Finley Kitchen right now. So this is her first retail location. She does the farmers markets and things like that. But you know, for her, this is a huge step. Same with the Heart Piece Heart. We're her first retail shop. She also does the market over at the Red Moor and Mount Lookout and farmers markets. But you know, some of these businesses, this is a big step for them, and it's a huge step for us.
And as we post their products on social media, they're sharing announcements about us on social media, so that the community is really sort of helping build each other to get these products out.
What advice do you give young people like me who want to have their own business someday?
Have passion for what it is that you wish to do. Is it really passion is what's going to keep you going forward during the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations of opening a business? We've been renovating this space for 3 years, and we're just now opening in a limited capacity during a pandemic. And almost every hurdle that could happen on a project has happened on this project. But you got to have a vision, you have to have passion, and you have to have
Patience.
A lot of patience. And you have to be willing to put in what we call sweat equity. You know, you got to be willing to put in the hours.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Okay, so what do you think kids would like to have from your store the most?
Yes. Cheese, definitely cheese. We love cheese. And so we hope they love cheese. But we also have, for people who don't eat dairy or for a healthier dietary choice, we have produce.
Fresh fruit. We make our own trail mix, which is all organic and sugar-free except for the milk
Chocolate-covered sunflower seeds is the only added sugar to this, and it's great for a movie. We threw it together a year and a half ago or so for a customer, and they loved it so much that they spread the word to people, and then we had people asking us to make this mix when we weren't carrying it.
I agree. It's a great mixture of sweet and salty and whatever raisins taste like. We want to thank you for opening your store in Northside and sharing your passion and knowledge and supporting Happen and KMNH.
Well, thank you for having us, Omar.
Thanks. We're happy to help happen. We like what you guys are doing, and we think that KMNH is great.
Proud to support you.
Happen would not be able to, well, happen without community support. Happen relies on mind, muscle, and money. And Happen's director Tommy says it's hard to find someone who has the ability to give all three, especially all three, at once. That's why we're celebrating Happen volunteer, advisor, financial supporter Tim Jeckering. Tim has been instrumental in Happen's growth, and as I found out from our interview, has been instrumental in the growth of Northside on its own. Hi Tim, thank you for being on KMNH, and first I wanted to ask you, how long have you lived in Northside, and when and how did you get involved with Northside in the first place?
Well, Larkin, I've lived in Northside for 40 years now, a little longer than 40 years, and it's been really quite the neighborhood to live in. I've seen lots and lots of change over time. I guess I moved here right when I first got married in 1985, and have lived here ever since. So it's been quite a few years. The first big thing that happened when we moved to the neighborhood is I remodeled the house up on Spring Lawn, and then when the house was about 75% finished and remodeled, my wife and I had our first son, an only son, Ted. He was 35 now, and he lives in Spokane, Washington. So that was the first big project after the house renovation. Started getting involved in the neighborhood back with Rockford Woods. In 1989, it was when the developers at that time were going to clear cut and regrade that whole site. 85% of the site was going to be clear cut and regraded. I got involved with the community council and the Hillside Trust on that, and then from there I ended up on the community council board and became president, and did a stint of about 13 years running on the community council, 3 terms as president, secretary, and treasurer. And it's been a great thing to do in the neighborhood. I've met so many people, so many great people, so many creative people, and I've been able to lead some fun things in the neighborhood. In addition to that, I've had my architectural office at the corner of Hamilton and Poland since my son started kindergarten, which was probably 1990. And for 30 years, the office has been there, and we've operated with as many as 5 or 6 people, and so on and so forth. Currently, I'm the president of the Northside Business Association, serving a couple-year term to kind of help the business association before I ride off in the sunset on my horse and my kayak.
Why did you choose Northside as a place to live, and how did you get involved in helping the Northside community?
Well, Larkin, I originally picked Northside probably because prior to getting married, which is when I actually moved to Northside, I was living up in Clifton, and I was involved in a Cincinnati food co-op, which was a food co-op that had bounced around in numerous locations in Clifton and then found its way to Northside. And I knew people and managers at the food co-op because I had gotten involved right after I graduated from architecture school. And one of the managers, who was a buddy of mine, his father had bought a 2-family, and he asked me if my wife and I'd like to join him in the 2-family. So we moved in the bottom half of this duplex for $175 a month, and that was our first place in Northside. So I probably moved here because of it was an inexpensive place to live, and I knew some people. Gradually over time, I found there's just a huge sense of community and volunteerism and pride in this neighborhood that's really quite contagious, and it has caught me and has led to a lot of volunteer work that I've done, and I've been so privileged to represent this neighborhood in many capacities over time. So it's been great.
You've been a big help to Happen as an advisor, and also with sharing your design and carpentry skills. Can you share with us some of the Happen volunteer projects that you've worked on?
Well, Larkin, I guess when I think about Happen, I think of it as being just a huge neighborhood asset for many generations. While the organization focuses on youth and teens, I think the neighborhood as a whole really benefits from Happen being here. And as such, I want to support them in any way I can. As president of the NBA, when I took over in the beginning of 1999, I guess, what I found was an organization that needed a little bit of assistance and help in terms of we had acquired some key buildings in the neighborhood but had not put them into use, and one of them that I came up with was a solution for Happen Inc. to take over the old chop shop space right behind me here on my right hand side. And the idea was that because it was contiguous with the gardens, school children and visitors to the garden space would no longer have to cross Hoffner Street to get to what was going to be the outdoor storage area and restroom facilities for Happen. There was a city grant that's been in limbo and installed for years, and with that on my plate in an empty chop shop building, I'm in the process of making it work so that Happen will have the chop shop building along with this parking lot. We can put in a gate here, and you'll have easy access to restrooms and for programming and so on and so forth, indoors and out. So I think that's great. But we're standing underneath a little gazebo that my sister-in-law prompted me into. Pat Agnew, who's the chief gardener down here, sent me an email about what could I do with these ugly posts, and so I sketched something up and showed it to her and Tommy, and here we are today looking at the finished product.
Can you show us your latest project?
Sure. When I took over the project and did the design for it, what we had were the posts were here, all 8 of them. They were in the ground, they were sunk, the patio was here, and they were tied together just with a simple 2x8 around the perimeter to keep them from warping and twisting all over the place. And I took those down, and I ended up installing these beams, which are notched into the posts so they're not going to fall down. They're very structurally stable. So I notched all the beams, or the posts to accept the beams, and then the beams I notched all individually, so the verticals on top have a place to seat in there, so they're not going to fall over on us. They're screwed in after they're put in these notches. So all that was done at home in my driveway after I took very careful dimensions down here. I did all the notching, I cut the beams, and I installed the beams, and I had a friend of mine, Dan Crimer, who came down here and helped me install the 2x6 slats up top. So the top part was done, and that was kind of phase one in my mind. Phase two was an enclosure that will help Tommy be able to put his grill here and not have kids come up to the back of the grill and burn themselves. So we wanted a structure that would hold up and protect the back of the grill for Tommy, but also a structure where Pat Agnew and other gardeners can get some lines and growth on these poles and in these lattice panels, hopefully up on top, and create more shade in addition to it. So it was a fun project. Most of the things were done at my home, in my driveway, and then I brought them down here in components and put them together. As a matter of fact, like these came down in 3 pieces. There's the bottom, the middle, and the top came down in 3 pieces, and I simply assembled them down here after taking careful dimensions. So it worked out great. It was a fun project, and I'm thrilled to be able to make it happen.
We also want to thank you and the Northside Community Fund for your support. Can you tell us how Northside neighbors can support the Northside Community Fund?
Well, the Northside Community Fund, Larkin, was started back in 2004 with the idea that we knew back in the neighborhood back then that it would be great to have a funding source for small projects in the neighborhood that really make key differences with small nonprofits and startups. And so we started the Northside Community Fund to the Greater Cincinnati Foundation with the intent of building up a $100,000 endowment and then using the money off that endowment every year to distribute out in the community to nonprofits through a competitive grant process. Along the way, and we do have a $100,000 endowment in place now, which is a thrill. This was our first year of giving out an allocated amount that Greater Cincinnati Foundation gave us, which was $3,500. And we gave Happen $1,000 towards their effort of this TV station and effort that they're doing right now on Kids Making News Happen, which was fun. But over that time period, the Northside Community Fund has also pledged out $85,000 worth of projects in the neighborhood over those 15, 16 years. We've also built the endowment. So I've been involved in that, and it's a privilege to be involved in that from the neighborhood standpoint. And it's another great way that we can support the small voice and the smaller organization in the neighborhood that seems to sprout up everywhere. So it's a lot of fun. I'm glad we're a part of it, and I'm glad Happen has been a recipient of the community fund along with all the other nonprofits in the neighborhood. Of course, we can always have more money in the community fund for that endowment, so if you care to give, you just go to GreaterCincinnatiFoundation.org and click on Northside Community Fund. It's a real simple online process for making a donation, but every little bit helps. If we get that endowment up way beyond $100,000, we'll have more to give every year to all the startups and nonprofits in the neighborhood. So thanks for mentioning that, and I appreciate your mentioning that. Thank you.
Any advice for a young person like myself that wants to get involved in the Northside community?
Well, I would say certainly as you're growing up in life and you see your community around you, you have opinions and thoughts about what could be better in your community and how your community could be better from an early age. I mean, you ride your bike around, you see issues, you wish things were different and so on and so forth. When you get to be 21, you can vote. And I would really encourage people to take advantage of that privilege that we have in the United States of getting out and voting, because it's just critical in my mind, and I really need to encourage young people to vote, because when you stay home and vote, then you don't got no right to complain about who gets in office. And if you don't like the candidates, sometimes you have to take the best of the worst. And I understand that's a compromise and it's no fun, but sometimes if you don't take the best of the worst, we end up with the worst. So what I'd like to say to people is to take advantage and vote. I'd also like to tell people to get involved in your community through your schools, through Happen. There's lots of programs that are happening at Happen Inc. The Community Council is very open to youth-led initiatives, and get out and do things in your community or do things in your school. Back when I was in 6th and 7th grade in my elementary school, I was organizing trips from Dayton, Ohio down to see the Reds games in Coney Island. These were as a teen group that I started up in Dayton, Ohio, and we did all kinds of active things. I was running 2 school buses when I was in high school, bringing 100 teens down here to Reds games and having a great time. So, take some initiative. And if you find something in your society or your neighborhood you don't like, do something about it. It's much more fun to do something about what needs to be done in your neighborhood than complain. Complaining leads to frustration and nothing getting done, and doing something, it's really amazing what you can do locally in your own neighborhood. It's quite open, it's quite accepting, and you'll find that it's very welcoming as well. So don't be afraid to get out there with these old adults. Tell them what you think, tell them what you want to do, and see if you can't get some support for doing it. So the neighborhood's yours as much as mine, and you just got to step up and do your part and do it in a way that's comfortable for you.
Well, thank you so much for all you've done for Happen and the Northside community itself, and thank you for being on KMNH.
Well, Larkin, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity and the privilege of being interviewed today. I think what you guys are doing in this strange pandemic times is really cool. I think the Kids Making News Happen really is a step towards what I was talking about before, of getting out and getting involved in your neighborhood. And I'm very thankful and honored that you'd consider me as part of the show today. Thank you.
Today's word of the day is artisan, spelled Artisan. Artisan is defined as a worker in a skilled trade, especially involving making things by hand.
According to the Webster Dictionary, artisans aren't the same as artists, but sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference. In the Middle Ages, artisans organized themselves into guilds. Each different artisans, weavers, carpenters, shoemakers, and so on had a different guild, which set wages and prices, keeping standards high and protecting its members from outside competitors. In America, however, most artisans have been fiercely independent. Today, when factories are produced almost all of our goods, artisans usually make the only fine objects for those who can afford them. And now, we even include food among artisan crafts. So you can buy artisanal cheese, breads, and even chocolates.
Thanks for tuning in to KMNH, Kids Making the News Happen. I hope that you've enjoyed this broadcast, and I hope that you will tune in again tomorrow for more KMNH.